Welcome everyone to the May meeting of the Oak Grove Community Council. We're glad to have everyone here, and a special welcome to any newcomers. If you are a newcomer and this is your first time at the OGC meeting, we would love to have you let us know your name and about where you live in that neighborhood. Is this your first meeting? Yes. Well, we're glad to have you with us. Okay, so generally then we start with our board introductions. My name is Valerie Chapman. I'm the chair and I live on Evergreen Street, about a block from the trolley trail. Mark? Ben? And Wayne? And Joyce. All right. So, and let's introduce our other members who are here. People. Brian, do you want to?
I can't hear anybody speaking.
Okay.
Me neither. All the people who apparently just introduced themselves, we couldn't hear them.
Can we get people to move up so they're closer to our? I don't know, can you move it on? Yeah, we safer to be behind the table. There's a couple chairs here, or Jane, we won't be able to hear you. Got a soft voice. Anita's got a soft voice. All right. Who else didn't introduce themselves? Thelma. And we have our two presenters are here tonight, and Sarah McNaughton and Kia Sully, who will do a little more introduction when they have that. I want to take this moment to say that we have a new voting member. So you want to do that, Joyce? It's Susan Keel.
Still can't hear them.
You still can't hear?
Still can't hear.
Okay, let's test with other people. Cindy, can you hear us? Okay, is there
I can hear Valerie, but I can't. I can hear the other people a tiny bit sometimes not at all.
Okay, so now what?
Valerie, check your volume level on your in-room microphone, because you can kind of hear other people in the room, but it's so faint you really can't hear them. You're the only one that has good audio. It's like the microphone's turned way down.
Okay, so let's try again. Susan, say something. Talk to them.
Hi, okay, about what, being a voting member? And don't work.
Much better.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, sorry about that. My grades of technology, I would have failed, but. All right. Okay, so let's introduce our folks who are online. Cindy, do you want to start?
Hi, I'm Cindy Brown. I live at Roseville.
And Baldwin?
Hi, I'm Baldwin Vanderbilt and I live 3 doors up from Springfield Park.
And Rich?
Can't hear.
You can't hear?
No, it's very
Rich?
quiet. I can hear that somebody's talking. I heard Rich, but it's very, I can't follow it. But I'm Rich Nippon. I live over by Fred Meyer's, Oak Grove.
So I have Ben, there's a second thing up here. It says same as system echo canceling speakerphone. Would I use that?
Yeah, probably.
Um. So this one,
Yeah, this should be the same.
okay,
And I'm hearing it on this one here, so this might be a audio output issue from the other end,
okay.
in which case, nothing we can do about it, you know.
All right, well, we'll do our best to have loud voices here. Tom and Jolene, you want to introduce yourselves? Tom, can you hear us?
Excuse me, Tom and Jolene Hammond, we live on Viewcrest Drive.
Welcome. And Pam?
I'm Pam Horan. I live at Roseville.
And Linda?
I live at the dead end south on Woodland Way from Oak Grove Boulevard.
Bob?
Hi, I'm Bob Bohannon. I live on Southeast Lauria, adjacent to Rosevilla. And Rich, you may try to exit out of the meeting and then come back in. When I first logged in a few minutes ago, I had no sound whatsoever. So I canceled out of the meeting, and then when I rebooted in is when I could hear Valerie. So you might try to reboot it and see what happens.
Sue?
Sue Conahan. I live at River Road and Parkview Circle.
All right, so I think we got everybody. I didn't get everybody. Here comes Joseph, so we should. Our other board member. And Daniel was not with us tonight, you got them both in? Okay. All right, well, let's do some officer reports. Daniel is away tonight, so he sent us a treasurer report. He said that at the April meeting, we received $13 in cash. And later there was another $40 donation. And also we received a $750 check from the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council. So the balance is currently $1,703.32. $500 will be going to H-Dog for the Oak Grove Festival, as we voted at our last meeting. So that's where our balance is right now, and we have right behind Joyce or in front of Gwen, there's our little donation container, and we should pass that around at some point. And we wanted to remember to encourage people to donate. We can't, because if we just keep spending money, it will be gone. So I know we will have and also the minutes were put out. Are there any other corrections? We had one correction. We had one person in the voting member that was not yet a voting member, but were there other corrections to the minutes? And if not, Then we will leave them approved as sent out. And then one other note, the board is planning a planning day in July, so those are our officer report. And that puts us actually right on time. So our first presenter tonight is Sarah McNaughton, who is here to speak on behalf of the New Century players. So if you come up, so the owl is happy with you, and
I'll see if the owl will be happy with me if I'm here. I'll sit down though, so I'm on the same level as everybody else. My name is Sarah McNaughton. I am a board member from New Century Players, and we are a local community theater group. If you're not aware of us, we've been around since 2004. I've been on the board for 3.5 years now. And we do live local theater. We just wrapped last weekend a production that we did with Milwaukee High School. So we did a joint production with them, and we had some grant money and also contributed money to the production. And there was a few adult actors who performed in it with the students at Milwaukee High School called The Prom. So if you're aware of that, that was our community theater production. In 2 weeks, we have auditions for our next show, which is a summer production called Social Security. And one of our board members, Ron Palmblad, will be directing that. It's gonna be pretty fun, and it'll be at the Samaritan Lodge in late July, and the first weekend of August is when it'll be happening. I don't know if you want me to take questions. I'm not sure what y'all want.
where will the auditions be?
The auditions will also be at Samaritan Lodge on June 7th and 8th in the morning from 10 to 2. There's several middle-aged-ish parts, I would say, that say they're between 35 and 55, and then one older female part from a meddling mother that moves in with the couple and causes all kinds of chaos.
Perfect, there's probably
Right.
several of us.
There are open auditions, and there are sites for those if there is anybody interested in acting on our website. We also have scheduled a yet to be decided upon Christmas play reading. We've done a couple readings the last few years. That will also be held in December in the Samaritan Lodge. So we'll be performing that. If you have, oh yes, we always need tech people. On our website, there's a little place where you can email us with things, but yes, I saw that pop up in the questions. So absolutely, we always need people for tech. If you want to usher, you can watch for free. But yeah, we like to have things, and we're happy to now have a venue again that's within the Milwaukee kind of city limits, because it's right over by where Pietro's Pizza used to be. There's a little stage in there.
So you,
What is your number of people that you can seat in a performance?
That we can seat, I think in the venue, we're putting it, we just, I'm also a member of that lodge, and I'm gonna have to go over there after this, and for that meeting. Sorry, I'm double booked today. I was the only one that was available to do both things. We're putting in a wheelchair access ramp in the stage room, in the room with the stage. It used to get up onto the stage. We used to be able to seat around 80.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's gonna go down some, putting the ramp in just to have ramp access. I imagine it'll still be 60 to 70 somewhere in there, but until we put that in, I'm not quite sure how much lower it'll go for seating.
Are you guys an equity waiver group?
We are just a straight non-paying community theater. The only people we pay are some of our directors. Some of the directors' kind of jobs in stage management.
So when you pay royalties, so.
Correct, yes.
So sometimes if you're under a certain size.
Yes.
So the reason I asked that is there are maybe other venues that are bigger, so just wondering.
The difficulty with venues is finding one.
Yeah. Well, I know of
100% finding one. What venue are you speaking of?
Concord School.
I would love to be in a school, 100%. We would love to have, actually, we would love to have a family. We would love to work with a place to set it up for theater productions and music productions and have the space. We have several people, including myself. I used to teach theater in Alder Creek for 20 years. And then my program got cut and I moved to Rex Putnam where I teach English and have for like, this is my 7th year doing that. So we've been since COVID, and then Roseville stopped being a location for us to perform at. We've been looking for a venue. We were able to get into be able to use the Oddfellows Lodge by a couple of us joining as members. But we would love to have a space that was more of our home, that we can make a community theater space for people that wasn't also being used by 4 or 5 other theater companies. We're like divvying up the calendar right now with them, and also just like the lodges and other people who use that space. But yeah, I mean, for as long I live in Milwaukee, I'm not in your guys' neighborhood, I'm in the Lake Road neighborhood. But as long as I've been there, I've wanted to have us have a community performance space, which doesn't exist currently. There's no place that we could be like, let's house, we have the lovely Porch Fest that happens, and there's that happening in the neighborhoods, which is great in the summer. But wouldn't it be wonderful to invite performing groups from around and have them have a space to perform that was local? I think that would be amazing.
Do you have a website?
We do, newcenturyplayers.org.
I was just gonna say that, New Century Players has done a lot of productions at Roseville, at Rex Putnam.
Correct.
As well as Milwaukee, so we know that that people that participate and go to the theater as well, from our area as well, which is quite fun to have you in. When does the current production are they done with the prom?
Yes, it just finished this. Are we done with the prom? Yes, I finished this last weekend.
I just want to say, if anybody got to see it, they do wonderful productions with the young people. That was a musical. It was amazing. It was really a fun show.
Yeah, it was great. And we brought in we paid for the pianist, choreographer, sign language interpretation. We paid for the program and the bills, just to say that not only were we working with providing, we had an assistant director that came from us. We have one of the gals on the board has worked in marketing for a long time, so she worked with their marketing students both last year and this year on how to market for shows and produce publications for that. So we really are a group that likes to partner with our local high schools when we have the opportunity to do that, and also create local theater for Milwaukee proper. So
you did Footloose.
Long ago.
Yes. So, anyway, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Sharon, were there any other questions or thoughts? Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're gonna have 2 community centers in the area. Could a subset of actors come and do just some small thing?
That would be wonderful. I mean, it would be wonderful if we had a stage space that was available to produce things like that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the stage space is at the Milwaukee Community Center, but there's, yeah, okay, and then, it's got the curtain and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also at Concord School, which is no longer a school,
Right.
has a total stage.
Yeah, the difficulty with some of those is, theater is its own little beast in the fact that you have to have a space that you can rehearse in, and have castings and sets and things stored and then perform for several weeks.
Yes.
And when you're talking about renting a space, that gets prohibitively expensive. When we did a show last summer, we rented this chapel theater, and we weren't rehearsing even in that space, and just performing for the 3 weekends, it was nearly $3,000. Which, when you're talking about community theater budgets, you're losing money if you're spending that kind of money. And we are trying to stay alive and keep producing theater throughout. So, we're committed in the next couple of seasons to do a show with Milwaukee. We've developed a rapport with, the director there, Miss Laura Steenson, and working with her and supporting the students there in a variety of ways. And then one full stage production and a reading is what we feel like we can produce right now for the next couple of seasons.
Well, thank you. Any other questions or comment?
Oh, thank you.
All right, well, thank you for being with us, Sarah, and Kia, you are on, if you want to do a little more introduction.
Sure.
Yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Great. I actually have a slide deck. I hope that's okay. How much time would be sorry?
You can go, for all the way until you five.
Okay, I'll try really hard not to take that much time.
Well, we want questions on.
Well, thank you. So it's really nice to see some familiar faces. Some of you I haven't seen in a while, Sue.
True.
It's wonderful to see you. So I am Kia Selly. I am the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Director. I report to Eric Schmidt, the Clackamas County District Administrator. So that, and then basically the Clackamas County Board of Clackamas County Commissioners are NCPRD Board of Directors. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I do have a slide deck, and I know some of you know a lot about NCPRD, but I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning so that we all kind of have the same understanding, if that's okay. And we're going to do something clever here where I'm going to share my PowerPoint so those people at home can actually see it too. Can I project it? Is that?
She's a
Okay, so I'm a co-host, okay.
You should go.
So, can I just share my screen, Mark?
You should be able to.
Okay, right.
Let's see how clever we are.
No.
Look at that, it's gonna run.
Hey, fantastic. Can everybody at home see that as well?
Yes, they should be able to see
Okay,
that.
excellent. Let me get rid of a few of these boxes here. Okay. So, NCPRD's mission is to enrich community vitality and promote healthy living through parks and recreation. This is our district map. So essentially the district extends from the southern boundary of the city of Portland. It includes Milwaukee, extends east to Happy Valley, and then south to Oregon City. So we're actually in District Advisory Committee Sub Area 2, roughly, committee member Sub Area 2, and but it doesn't align our sub areas for the District Advisory Committee, which I'll talk more about, don't align perfectly with the CPO's boundary. So I just wanted to kind of say that up front because I know that's creating some confusion. The district was formed in 1990 with a permanent tax rate of 54 cents per thousand. We are governed, as I said, by a board of directors who are also the Clackamas County Commissioners. And the board is advised by a district advisory committee, which is made up of representatives, which I'll talk about a little bit more later, but made up of representatives from the community. So we serve a little over 100,000 district residents with 36 parks, 7 natural areas, 6 miles of trolley trail. Thank you to those of you that have worked so hard on the trolley trail, and 3 facilities. The North Clackamas Aquatic Park, the Milwaukee Community Center, although that community center is owned by the city of Milwaukee, and NCPRD funds and operates that center. And then we are remodeling as you know, the Concord Elementary School at the Concord property, and we'll be finished with that work probably late summer, and we'll have a big grand opening in the fall. This is our organizational structure, and the reason I want to show it to you is because you can see up there in the right-hand corner that the District Advisory Committee and the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board actually advise the Board of County Commissioners. And this also shows the relationship between my reporting structure. I report to the county administrator. So the key opportunities with the district is we are debt-free, which is actually pretty significant. And a voter poll from 2021, and I will also note, I just learned today from 2023, there was some polling done before I joined NCPRD that noted that the residents are satisfied with the parks and facilities and recreation programs and services. The recent sale of Wichita and Clackamas properties actually generated some revenue for NCPRD, 5.9 million. And thanks to Director Sabas, he really led this effort. We have sequestered those funds for property acquisition so that since we basically sold 2 properties, the idea is to replace the district with some properties later. And I'll talk a little bit more about the plan at the end of this when I talk about the system plan. So key challenges, really our biggest challenge right now is our limitations on general fund revenue. We have a tax rate that was established in the 90s that's 54 cents per thousand of assessed value. As you can see from this table or this graph, basically we earn half of what most park and recreation districts in the state of Oregon do. And so there are 5 park and rec districts in Oregon. And so we have really fallen behind in terms of our buying power. And with inflation, our revenues have just not kept pace with our expenses. We did have a planned $50 million capital bond measure. This was envisioned when the voters passed the district early in the 90s, and this was never presented to voters. So we've really leaned on our general funds, and then we have system development charge funds too, which we collect from new development and major renovations. But even that rate has remained really low as well. So we have some work to do to generate more revenues. And I would say the highest priority today is to generate more general fund revenue because that funds our operations. So because we're actually looking forward to fiscal year 25-26, our fiscal year begins July 1 of this year. So we're really looking ahead, and we just had a budget hearing yesterday. So I'm not going to give you a lot of detail because the budget has yet to be formally adopted by the board, but it was approved by the budget committee yesterday with a modification, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But these are basically the sources that make up our budget. And again, that tax rate of 54 cents per thousand of assessed value, that's our largest source of revenue. And then we generate some system development charge revenues, and then we charge for programs and services. We actually get a lot of federal and state grants. Our staff are really skilled at work at many different organizations, public organizations, and this staff team is exceptionally adept at getting federal and state grants for projects and programs. And then we have beginning fund balance, which is essentially our savings account. Interfund transfers, just moving money between funds, but we do count that as a source of funds. So because our tax revenue is so limited, and because our costs really can't be covered by that general fund revenue, we are having to make some budget reductions next fiscal year. And we have been using some of our savings in previous years, and the board gave us direction to really create a balanced budget that going forward, and it's really about financial sustainability. So with this balanced budget, we actually hit a funding cliff in about 6 years. But if we didn't balance our budget today for next fiscal year, then we would hit that cliff sooner. So, but that it's hard to do budget reductions because it will impact individuals within the organization. And it will also impact the community that we serve as service pets. So I'll detail those just so that you're apprised of what's happening. But I do want you to know that there is work underway to look at other options for generating more general fund revenue. So as I mentioned, we'll have some staff layoffs. We will cut 7 filled staff positions. One of those will be in our facilities maintenance team. 4 of those will be with our older adults transportation program that runs out of Milwaukee Community Center. And I'll talk more about the program service impacts in just a minute. We are eliminating our deputy director position, which means all of that work gets reallocated to others within our organization. And we are also eliminating a social services position. The key jobs of the social services staff are to maintain Meals on Wheels eligibility. And we believe that with the remaining staff, we'll be able to do that. So I also wanted just to make sure that anybody who knows someone in the community that's on the Meals on Wheels program, we won't be impacting that program whatsoever. You will see some service reductions in addition to these staff impacts with reduced mowing in parks. We will still keep picking up the trash and managing graffiti. We feel like there's some minimum things that we can't cut, but we will be reducing our irrigation, our mowing, and in some areas, availability of restrooms. And we'll really be coming out to you with more information about which restrooms and what exactly those impacts are. We want to be really careful and figure out which of those places that the community needs to have those restrooms open the most. So more on that to come. So as I mentioned earlier, the transportation program for older adults will be impacted by a service cut. We will be actually eliminating that program. The program provides travel trips, but the biggest impacts really are for individuals who are seniors that might not want to drive. That's a large group of our clients, but also individuals living with disabilities. And they have been accessing transportation services from their home to the center. And then back home, and we often include a grocery store trip on the way home. We are working to identify a partner that can continue this service, or partners, probably more realistically, so that we can continue to provide service to those individuals. And this service was actually provided early on as an option that was more convenient than the TriMet Lift service. But TriMet Lift service still remains a service that individuals can access. It just hasn't been as convenient as what we provided at Milwaukee Community Center. So I want to be transparent about that as well. For recreation, the Recmobile Summer Program has been canceled or will be canceled, and our big concert at Milwaukee Bay Park will be canceled as well this summer. We hope to get sponsors for next year, but we just didn't have time to put that together for this year. Now, in terms of our two community centers, we'll have cuts there too. And I want to start with Concord because that's the closest community center to all of you. So we had planned to reopen that center this fall, and because of the budget reductions, we will not be able to have drop-in access. We will be limiting access to the center for rentals and for some recreation programming that we're able to do some cost recovery that fully recovers our costs. So we're really looking at that carefully to see what we can offer there at the Concord Community Center. Our other community center, which is in Milwaukee Community Center, owned by the city of Milwaukee, that also will be open one less day a week in the budget reduction package. And I'll talk a little bit in a moment about where we actually landed at the end, or where the budget committee landed at the end of that budget hearing, because I think that's important, but I want you to understand what we proposed. So that would mean one less day a week for group meal and some other recreation programs. But I would say that when we looked at other centers, the reason why this was put up as a consideration, when we looked at other centers providing similar services in the region, those centers are providing service typically only 4 days a week. And some of those centers actually have stopped congregate meals, probably for budgetary reasons, but we haven't really dug into the reasons why. So those are the budget reductions. Before I describe where the budget committee landed, I also want to share with you some additional information about the Meals on Wheels program, because this came up during the budget process when our budget committee was actually reviewing our documents. In our documents, we show that there will be a 6.1% reduction in Meals on Wheels home delivery service. That's not a budget cut. And I want to be really clear about that. We actually are expecting the demand and the client eligibility to decrease over the next fiscal year. For the current fiscal year, our forecasted decrease for demand and client eligibility for that program is 7.3%. And the reason for the decline in demand is actually due to the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, the federal government relaxed a lot of their eligibility requirements for Meals on Wheels for obvious reasons. People were afraid to go to a center to a congregate meal. We call it it's a group meal. And they were also feeling more food insecure. So for that reason, more people were put on home delivery service. Well, a lot of those folks have come back to centers, Milwaukee Community Center included, or they no longer feel food insecure. So we've seen a pretty dramatic decline in demand as well as client eligibility for that program. So I just wanted to be clear. Every individual who meets the federal requirements for Meals on Wheels home delivery will receive a meal. And I think that's a really important message. So if you hear someone talking about their concern around Meals on Wheels home delivery service around this budget discussion, please let them know that there's no service reduction. And they should contact the Milwaukee Community Center to speak about their individual situation. So yesterday, there was a very long hearing, and I want to applaud Director Savas, who's in the back there, as well as the rest of the budget committee members, for I think it was 2.5 hours of deliberation, because for obvious reasons, these are very hard cuts, particularly the service impacts to the community. Where the budget committee landed is that they approved the budget and made a motion to provide bridge funding, basically 6 months of funding, to restore the 5th day at the Milwaukee Community Center. So basically restoring all days of service, as well as restoration of the transportation program, so that we can actually have some time to figure out which partners are going to backfill the transportation program appropriately, and maybe even find some funding for that 5th day at the center. So I'm grateful for the time to actually do the work. And I'm also grateful that we don't need to make those really impactful service cuts right away. So that's what came out of the meeting. The board is actually going to convene in the middle of June for another public hearing to adopt the budget. And if you want information about that tonight, I'm happy to share the details about that as well. So that's the budget summary. I'm going to share some better news. We are working on some really exciting projects. One of them is a system plan. And for those of you, we don't call it a master plan anymore, but for many of you, that might be more familiar terminology. So basically, it's a 20-year roadmap for basically directing our district investments. We haven't done one of these plans since 2004. And we actually have a final opportunity for input on the draft report beginning June 16th to July 16th. So we hope you'll get online and take a look if you want to weigh in on that plan. And we are actually queuing up not only recommendations about park maintenance and recreation programs, but also basically near-term, mid-term, and long-term capital improvement projects. So this will provide all of the guidance for the district. And I will say all of this guidance has been based not only on community input, but on some really extensive data mapping. So if you're curious about what parts of the district are park deficient, look at those maps. You can actually see, not as the crow flies, but really you have watch sheds, we call them, around parks. So for example, if there's a highway that runs along a park, well, that creates a barrier. So we actually said people that are on the other side of the highway actually can't just go through the highway to get to that park. So you'll actually see sort of irregular blobs around parks, which tell us where we need to place more investment so that we have more accessible parks. And the desire is to make sure that everybody throughout the district has more access to parks. So please take a look at that online. We expect to complete this work We're saying summer, but we're really stretching it. It's probably gonna be late summer, early fall, because we're going back to the district advisory committee in September. And then, of course, we'll go to the board after that to request plan adoption. The Concord Property Project, I know you all know a lot about this, but I'll share it anyway. It's a bit of a celebration. So, that the community center will be partially renovated. We don't have funding to renovate the entire community center, but what we're doing, I believe, is really thoughtful work. So what we're renovating is going to be ADA accessible, it's going to be clean, it's gonna be safe, and we're fixing a lot of kind of longstanding issues with that building. HVAC issues, roof issues, drainage issues. So it really sets us up for the future. We're going to have our first fully accessible playground and splash pad. So if someone's in a wheelchair or in a walker and they want to be with their grandkid or their child, they'll be able to walk and roll on that playground just as easily and participate and play, which is really cool. We are also going to have our first splash pad. And adjacent to the community center is the new Oak Grove Library. We are not going to rename the Oak Grove Library, but we are going to rename the NCPRD amenities there. So that's underway in June. So stay tuned for more information, and thank you to all of you who submitted some ideas for names. Oh, and I should say we're, as I mentioned earlier, going to have a grand opening in the fall, probably October. The other project that we're doing a little south of here is a neighborhood park at the Jennings Lodge campus. This is a partnership with the Oregon City School District, and it's occurring basically behind one of their existing school facilities. It's a vacant 1.9 acre parcel. We expect to actually start construction on this next spring. And if all goes well, we expect to fund the 2.5 million in construction with 2.4 million in grants. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Again, we just have an amazing staff team that's been really diligent about finding grants. And that the estimated completion would be fall of 2027. And I always have to give you a pitch about, please consider being on our district advisory committee or just participating in a public input opportunity, following us on Facebook or Instagram. And definitely check out our discovery guide. We are now putting online our full discovery guide, which is a catalog of all of our programs and events. It's we did this just earlier this spring for summer programs, and it's the first comprehensive catalog we've done since the pandemic started. So it's pretty exciting for us. That's it, and I'm happy to take any questions. I know that was a lot, so I can go back in the presentation if you'd like.
You might mention that you have a new website.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Mark's on the DAC. I'm glad you said that. So yes, we expect to launch our new website in June. Our old website looks like something from the 80s, and there are a lot of cool things that happened in the 80s, but this website wasn't one of them. We are really excited to roll that out. We think it's really going to serve you better. It's going to be easier to navigate, more comprehensive, and we'll just be able to load more information on that website as well. And we're hoping that the website too, working on this right now, getting it to talk between our registration program and the website. So we're working on really bringing ourselves into the 21st century.
If you stop screen sharing, then we can see
yes.
the folks that are online. And
Thank
see
you.
if they have questions. And that was wonderful presentation. So we have time for questions and comments, and I see the comment that has been made.
To apply to be on the DAC is still an option through the end of this month. And you go to the county website, the section called ABCs, and scroll around until you find the part for NCPRE. And it's kind of a really special time to be on the DAC because of the system plan, which hasn't happened since 2004. So it's big to be in this not reinvention of NCPRE, but a big step with a lot of information available on how forward as a district. And also, somebody I was driving with yesterday after the meeting said, the budget meeting said, if you had to cut the program for seniors and people with disabilities at Milwaukee Community Center to 4 days, wouldn't it be better to do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday? So that the lack of a meal or a congregate time would be more spread out.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I mean, I'll certainly talk with our team. Hopefully, we won't have to go there. Hopefully, the 6 months of bridge funding will get us to a plan.
Yes.
We're fully funded on an ongoing basis. Our goal is really to be, so that we're not putting these programs out every year and creating that kind of uncertainty on an annual basis. Thank you for the pitch too about the DAC.
I was ready to do that.
Hi, Barry Epstein. I confess I was motivated to come tonight to my first meeting out of concern for the dramatic budget cuts proposed. Probably one of the newer residents of the area, a little more than a year. I think this is a lovely area with great promise. I live a long block from the Concord Center, and reading, for instance, that drop-ins will not be allowed just feels so contrarian to me. You might think I'm here to cast stones, quite the contrary. I want to applaud everyone's historical efforts. You and your staff obviously are highly skilled professionals, and I appreciate your challenges and difficult economic climates. I did take the time to look at a portion of the report. I listened to some of the testimony earlier during the budget committee, and I had one really large takeaway, that the giant elephant in the room was only first mentioned by Martha, and then kind of tentatively that maybe, just maybe, we need to tackle the tax rate issue and build the revenue side of the equation. Inflation will always exist, costs going up is a truism. So that doesn't strike me as the challenge. It's the revenue side of the equation, and you sadly point out that we lag so far behind other similarly situated communities to be 30 years out before you have a tax increase. To me, that's ludicrous. And so it just strikes me that the big challenge, the real issue is, how do you sell a tax increase? That's always a hard sell, but communities across the country have tackled that issue countless times, and I would like to think there's a way to do that intelligently. You've already demonstrated your astuteness in terms of managing a tight budget, being collaborative with other stakeholders, et cetera. And I would offer, to whatever extent as a citizen, I could help develop the strategy and implement something that builds a coalition, a consensus, and momentum towards a tax increase to build the revenue, so we're not hand to mouth. I mean, I believe the mission statement, but I've spent my career witnessing hollow mission statements by organizations. And because Parks and Recreations, I think studies show, my life experience shows, it's not about just trees and trails. Depression, isolation, are the biggest killers from a healthcare standpoint in America. Look at the demographics of this room. We have an age wave going on, and I'm part of it. I've worked in the senior care industry for decades as an attorney representing the industry. I spent 5 years running facilities in urban and rural America, and I'm part of the equation also. You represent opportunities for intergenerational connection, of rising, getting off the couch and away from our TVs, of interacting, talk about plays, et cetera, et cetera. We're in an era, obviously, where public safety has hijacked many budgets. But what I would have liked to have seen during the testimony and in your reports was more aspirational but practical representation. Here's our strategic plan to sell a budget increase. It was mentioned almost defensively. I think that's a mistake. I think you have to rally your internal and external resources and be planned to overcome that huge hurdle of a deficient tax rate. Otherwise, all this wonderful planning, which I'm a big fan of, is window dressing and will not be fulfilled. And Concord's a perfect example of that. I've been looking forward to that. Now say you have to belong to a group to even walk in the door. That's absurd. And that's not a criticism of anyone in the group. It's to me conceptually absurd. And I would love to see us collectively, as a community rally to change that fundamental flaw. And again, to whatever degree I can assist, I've spent my career problem solving. So I applaud your efforts, but I really would love to see it kind of shift away from resignation that we have to be constantly doing budget cutting. That was sad to me. The tone of that testimony. I know budget committees usually are not uplifting sessions. But I know I saw no sense of hope about that. It was pure resignation emanating from the pages and the testimony. And I would invite a reset.
Well, thank you, first of all, thank you for your kind words and thank you for your guidance too, because actually over the last probably 60 days, I would say that I've seen, and I'm relatively new to the district. I became director last year in March. So I've just been with the district for a little over a year, but I have seen a sea change in the last 60 days where people are looking at the numbers and saying, wow, okay, this is the moment, we need solutions. So I really credit my board with they have said that too. I heard them actually at the budget hearing too. And it probably wasn't as visible to you, but my ear is tuned to this conversation. So I will be bringing some options to the NCPRD board for consideration for future funding strategies. And I'm going to do that this summer. So that conversation is now starting. But for whatever reason, and I haven't been with the district for very long, so I don't have the full history, but it hasn't been that moment. And I'm not sure that from what staff have told me, and I'd love to hear from others as to their reflections, because many of you in the room have been around for much longer than I have, but in around NCPRD. But from my understanding, I think staff were trying to do more with less for a very, very long time and hadn't really kind of daylighted the issue in quite this way. And so the budget cuts created this moment. So I agree with you. This is our moment. We need to seize it and we need to look forward. The system plan is actually perfectly positioned because it does describe the needs and wants of the community. So we actually could launch into a some sort of a campaign for increased tax measure or capital bond measure, probably more of a increase to the taxes for just general fund revenue. I think the capital bond measure is probably a few or more years out, but definitely, I think this is the moment. So we hope to seize it, and we should talk after the meeting, because I'd love to talk with you. We definitely need more people working on the campaign. And Director Samas, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts about why, we're in this moment and why it's different now than before?
Well, I think you actually were spot on. Yeah, there's been an effort to suppress it, and my experience is, and some people I'm sure will remember, what we were going through in this room about another issue, and price sometimes creates opportunity. I think this is an opportunity. So I think exposing this and facing music, I think it's been important, and I think will stimulate people and hopefully empower people to take action. And we're gonna sign you all up, right? So watch your names before you all. I'm joking, but seriously, we need to get around the opportunity to see the potential for the community center and everything you can do, the library and park. There's a lot of good things happening, and I think we need to create energy around that and bring value to it, including looking at emulating what Milwaukee did with their community center. They have the Milwaukee Center Board, they have the Milwaukee Center Foundation Board, They have the Milwaukee Parks Board and the City of Milwaukee. So you have 4 organizations that are kind of helping support all that, and we can do the same. And I think it's just a matter of organizing and going before the voters for lives on the taxes. We got to figure out what that amount is and do some polling and see what the tolerance for the voters is. But appreciate your comments and you're spot on. So we're gonna get there. We're gonna do it.
I see Joseph Edge has a question, hand up. Joseph?
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you, Kia, for your presentation. You know, and all of the work that you are doing and your staff is doing. Part of the reason that we haven't had a conversation about increasing the tax rate is because it is unconstitutional in Oregon since 1997 for a taxing district to increase its permanent tax rate. So tax rates are locked in where they are. We can pass local option taxes or bond, you know, measures or levies under certain circumstances. Happy Valley funds a plethora of services through operating levies. So there are options, but increasing the permanent tax rate is not an option unless you are looking to rally the voters of the state of Oregon to amend the Constitution around this particular issue, which actually would be really smart, and I would really support that. But I don't see a constitutional amendment to allow increasing taxes, you know, really to be very popular. So anyway, I'd be happy to have more discussions around that, but you know, yeah, I think that's probably a dead end. So yeah, we have to look at other options. The only way to increase general fund revenues under the current taxing scheme would be to increase, well, you know, ultimately for development, to increase the property values and the taxable values of the properties that are redeveloped. And so, you know, that's, you know, as the CPO, you know, for this part of the county, that's, you know, certainly a topic that, you know, we focus on, you know, is development, but we don't generally look or discuss, I should say, I am aware of this and look at this quite frequently, but we don't generally discuss how development contributes to the tax base. So anyway, that is part of, I mean, that's kind of what the scheme that we have in place right now relies upon, is that, you know, property taxes or properties will continue to redevelop and it'll increase the tax rates, and we'll continue to get more revenue to you know, fund services in the area. But that's not enough on its own. And so we do need to look at other options like, you know, local option taxes, et cetera. So I guess that's less of a question than it is just kind of a statement.
I think you're going to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. Well, in a way, that's technically accurate. Actually, there is a way. Well, first of all, we can do a bond, voter approved. We can do a local option levy or an option levy or a levy. But you can't actually raise the permanent tax rate. And essentially, the way you do it is you dissolve the district with a positive vote, and then you reform it with a higher tax rate. So and if it doesn't pass, then the dissolution of the district does not occur. It stays status quo. So that's been done. It is constitutional, and there is a path.
That's exactly what yeah.
It's being created.
Yeah.
Belmy, I saw your hand go up.
So Kia, of the 5 other districts, parks districts in the state, how many of them have the county commissioners as their board of directors?
So to my knowledge, all of them have separate board of directors. I'm not an expert on their structures, but I know for sure THPRD does Twelton Hills Park and Recreation District. Ben does. Lemeline, I'm not certain, to be honest. And Jehalem, I'm not certain. But typically they have a board of directors.
From the local area, the district area.
Correct.
So if we were to change to a what, 266, is that the number?
For parks district.
266 district, which we tried 10 years ago.
2014, correct.
Right. And the problem there definitely was, and the reason I voted against that, they had way too many things in the ballot measure to do it. So we need to look at how to separate out those things in a ballot measure, because again, if you went before the voters to change and you had all those things at the same time in one ballot measure, you're sunk. It's not going to pass. So my recommendation is going to be for us, with or without Milwaukee, to change to a locally director board, a 266, right? Isn't that the number? A 266 agency, with or without Milwaukee.
How would that kind of a change affect the funding?
Well, it depends on how you form that, and that's what I said. The ballot measure has to be put together in such a way that you're not putting so much stuff in the ballot measure that it confuses the voters. Gotta keep it simple.
Yeah, so my understanding, I was around in 2014, but I've read analysis of that, that vote, and the analysis indicates that, as you said, Velma, that it was complicated. It was a change in governance in addition to an increase in the tax rate. And so, you know, we could probably talk about this for a long time tonight, but from where I sit, the biggest problem for us to solve is we need a higher tax rate. So if it's too complicated to get a higher tax rate and a change in governance, I would say we just need to pursue the higher tax rate. We need to choose one or the other, and the higher tax rate solves our key problem. I will tell you that I know that the County Board of Commissioners has a really large portfolio, but candidly, as the director of NCPRD, I feel very well supported by the County Board of Commissioners. They are super knowledgeable about NCPRD as the rest of the district, so they make decisions within that context. And in my short tenure, that's been helpful. But I know different people have different opinions about that. So,
Including mine. So the other thing that I mentioned yesterday when I testified was there has been no outreach into the community for a plan for the Concord School. You know, I think it took several people aback when we found out at the meeting and in the documents that the Concord School was not going to be open as such. So when are you planning to have the community involved in putting a plan together for the Concord School?
So great question, and you're exactly right. So this spring, when I brought the proposed budget to board leadership and Gary Schmidt, I was told that I needed to eliminate all use of beginning fund balance and we needed a balanced budget. That's when we put Concord up for not having drop-in service. That's when we started looking wherever we could. And so we were not able to, because of budget law, to talk publicly about the numbers and those changes until May 8th. And when the budget was actually posted. And so then, I know, Sue, you've been through this process, you talk with impacted employees first, and then you talk with your close partners, Milwaukee Community Center Foundation, the advisory board, then we went to our district advisory committee and briefed them. So we are really in the beginning stages of our communication strategy around these budget reductions. You're exactly right. And that's one of the reasons I'm here tonight, is we're doing a very, very quick roadshow now of here's where we are and here's where we need to go. So in the coming months, we'll be working on, okay, so given that we don't have drop-in access, how do we want to engage the community and when do we want to engage the community? So what we don't want to do is engage the community and create this amazing vision that we can't fund. So honestly,
But
right
we
now,
don't have a vision at all.
you're right, you're right. Well, it's an all ages community center, so it's not a complete lack of vision. It's an all ages community center, so we generally know what that means. We're gonna provide recreation programming to all ages. Which is a little different than Milwaukee, although Milwaukee recently became an all ages community center. It really serves more of an older adult population. So we have a gym at Concord, and we have actually made improvements to that gym. And we genuinely want to have an all ages community center. One of the 2023 poll, which wasn't really broadly distributed, but it went pretty deep in terms of wants and needs of the community. And something that I reviewed it today, because I just needed to kind of like get grounded in the data. And it talked a lot about how there is a huge demand for youth sports and youth recreation that we're not meeting. So we are gonna look to that data. We definitely are gonna engage the community, but I'll be honest with you, I need to see where the budget lands first, because I wanna make sure that we put together that program with the community in the context of what we can afford. And hopefully, we can afford more in the near future. But today, the budget cut will require us to limit access to, again, private rentals and to high performing or high cost recovery renovation programming.
But
Go ahead, Norm.
So TBD, so to be determined, that one.
okay, but here to the community, the school has classrooms. North Clackamas Parks and Rec District is moving their board or their staff into Concord School out of the red soils where it's at.
We're actually not there anymore. I don't have an office. So
I didn't
yes.
say you had one there now. I'm saying that the plan was to move the staff into the district at
Yes.
Concord. Okay, and so there was offices there, so there are classrooms there, and I asked Paul yesterday or day before, whatever happened to the community schools programs that would fit into those classrooms, which gives you art classes and things like that. I've taken community schools programs and working with the college on those kinds of things where you're actually paying to use the classroom. So if they had an art class, I would pay to go to the art class at Concord School, which generates money for North Clackamas Parks and Rec District.
So you're exactly right. Some of those do and some of those don't. We have a lot of those programs at Milwaukee Community Center, and we actually receive more funding when we provide those for seniors, because there's actually some federal funding that's available for that. So you're exactly right. So that's the kind of high cost recovery recreation programming that I'm talking about.
But that's what I'm saying. The community hasn't been involved in what they would like to see going on at Concord.
Yes, we are not, yeah, we're not there yet because we're trying to figure out really what we can afford. So I'm here tonight to share with you where we are with the budget. It's really going to be a step-by-step process. And my team is working on a plan right now to figure out kind of what does the budget look like at Concord? What can we do? Like these higher cost recovery recreation programs, what are those? So that we kind of have a menu that we can go with the community and offer. But some of it's gonna be about what we can afford.
What is the shortfall at Concord?
So Concord, we actually get a credit back in our budget, so it's not really about a shortfall. We're kind of taking Concord as an example where we're actually looking at saving money in terms of our utilities and our staff. So drop-in service, having somebody at a front desk all of the time requires us to have that fully staffed. So we get staff savings, and then we're also looking for some utility savings because we actually have zoned the building. So we can have just staff offices and then turn on the heat, the lights, or air conditioning for those certain programs that are happening. So we have targets in terms of our cost savings for utilities. So it's kind of a target for cost savings as well as cost reductions for staffing.
But that translates into a short of some amount. I mean, are you
It
talking
does. I mean, there are multiple.
millions or are you talking
No,
about
no,
all kinds
and
of
Concord,
thousands?
no, at Concord, it's less than $100,000. But those are the margins that we're working with right now. So we will generate next year about 7.5 million from this fixed permanent tax rate. And then we generate a couple $100,000 more from our fees for our programs and our services. And then as many of you know, the system development charges that we generate are restricted funds and our grants are restricted funds. So those are really, those two pots of money are really what we're working with. So we're really we're looking at every single spot we can eliminate. We're eliminating staff that generate like $100,000 in savings. So I know it seems small, but that's where we are right now.
I'd just like to start, I'm gonna piggyback on that just a little bit, take off my chair hat for a second. The hard part with this is that this community does not have any place that's ours to gather. Thank goodness for the water district, or we wouldn't have a building, right? So we've been looking for Concord for literally years. How many years have people been working on that? So then you want our votes.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's very
And-
counterintuitive to say you can't get into the building now. So yesterday, as a citizen attending and at the budget meeting, what I felt, really sad about is that because the Milwaukee Center is open, they could bring a busload of people to all testify. And they were heard. But ours isn't open. So we have no voice. And we've been working on that for a long time. And, I feel like it's too bad that keeping the doors open to Concord, at least part of the time, was not part of that bridge, but there was no way to bring it in. So, if you had your hand up. So.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I think, yesterday morning, Milwaukee Center advocates did a great job of showing up in force, and we did not. As I'll explain this to the Jennings Lodge CEO last night, your opportunity is the remaining Thursdays, not tomorrow, because it's budget week, but the remaining Thursdays and emails and advocacy, and come there and ask for Kia, I don't know what the amount is, to open the community center for a staff person to be there, for whatever it may be, but once we know the number, maybe there could be an ask, and maybe something can happen between now and June 16th or 18th when we approve it, to kind of get a little bit of startup money, but that's gonna be contrary to the law center, because we're given a glide path to limit, to cut the funding, and this would be a glide path to increasing something in a bridge with possibly nowhere. So I think that's the tough part here, and so we're gonna be working on it, but I completely agree, but I'll just remind everyone, some of you don't know this, but the budgetary aspects with the district, Kia came on, and Kia, I am just excited that she's here. We turned a new leaf at the district. It's been difficult to get information out there, even as a board member. It's been very painful for me for the last several years, because we had a lot of people on the board who really didn't care, the board of directors. That's changed. They care, and so they're stepping in. So it's a new day. But I will say that what we didn't really know was this financial crisis that was discovered a year ago. So this is the first budget since the discovery of the financial situation. So we are rectifying it. And so the Concord property is already underway. We had years of work on there. We had ARPA money, one-time ARPA money to build it. So we couldn't let that pass. So we had to build it. And it was last year when I heard this, I kind of realized we might be in trouble as far as opening the center completely. So here we are, but I think there's a way. I'm optimistic we'll get there somehow. But we need the support that we need.
Yeah.
Two quick thoughts, can I just share two
Yeah,
quick
please.
thoughts? Totally logical what you're saying. Maybe nominal drop-in fees for a period of time, I'd happily paid $3, $5, but now I can walk down the street and go to my new community center instead of having the door barred. Secondly, I don't think we've totally thought through the law of unintended consequences. Here we're acknowledging that the elephant in the room is our revenue side. And who we're gonna have to gain the support of to overcome that? The very citizens who were barring at the door of the new community center, or were turning away from the North Clackamas Park, Milwaukee Center. That to me is counterintuitive. This is also an opportunity lost. If you open up that beautiful new center and you unduly restrict access, you lose a golden opportunity to measure utilization. And data regarding utilization, not just what people want, what they actually utilize, what they get off the couch and go out and do, is invaluable data to predict where you end up in terms of community support for a tax increase. So I just, raise that issue.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think your testimony will be compelling to the board. I will tell you that when I was asked to eliminate all use of beginning fund balance, basically deliver a balanced budget, there were no good places to cut. And I shared that, the line that I shared with the budget committee was, staff have been doing more with less for so long that there's no fat anymore. And the only thing I would say that I'm holding firm on is we need to replace the roof at the aquatic park. It's 30 years old, and we're gonna do that. We're not going to kick the can down the road, because I have worked in other locations where I look to those folks now to the north, and there is a huge burden of deferred maintenance when you do that. So if you fund the programs but don't take care of your assets, that also isn't good too. So we're trying to really thread the needle. I know that the service cut is going to be really impactful to you all. So I hope that we'll find a way forward, but I will tell you, testimony is impactful. And I'd love to talk afterwards to see if you have some other thoughts about maybe there's a way for us to find some bridge financing to keep us open for a year, because hopefully we're not too far from getting additional general fund revenue.
Yeah, I think it's a combination, what you're saying, a small fee. But $100,000 is 1,000 people in the community contributing $100. Ask me. I mean, ask.
Amen.
Yeah, ask. That's a pretty compelling campaign right there.
That's Friends of Community Center.
Well, that could be the Friends of Concord.
Nothing like your name on a brick out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So Sue, actually, honestly, if, to your point, Director Savas, if there was a Friends of or a foundation, you don't even have to instantly become a 501c3. I know you don't need. Okay.
We
That-
have the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council, which would, I'm sure, be happy
to help.
to help.
Okay. Well, let's talk, because very seriously, we did actually reach out to the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation, and they have generously donated $180,000 to fill a gap for the nutrition services program. So they helped us patch that. So we did reach out to partners. Wes stepped up and provided more service for a program that we provide to them. So we have reached out to our partners, but honestly, we had about 4 weeks to do that, so we just didn't have time. But that is an idea that you could bring forward. I love that.
I want to acknowledge that we are way over time. And this is a good conversation, but maybe we should, is there anybody who hasn't had an opportunity to talk? Ben, did you?
I was just curious what the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation does. I mean, this was kind of basically the same point that you just brought up here, but that organization, what does it do, and what would a parallel version for the Concord Center look like?
So they largely provide resources for the Milwaukee Community Center, and those resources are primarily directed towards the older adult services, like the nutrition services program. They haven't contributed directly to the transportation program. But that is one of the other programs, and then they provide events and do things like that to support people. They might provide like a tax day, sponsor a tax day, so individuals can come in and have a tax advisor help them prepare their taxes. So that type of thing, but everything is really focused on the Milwaukee Community Center.
And they're an individual, an independent organization, or
Yes.
are they some way of?
They're yes, nonprofit, 501.
But they get grants and private donations.
They mostly get private donations, yeah, they haven't, I wouldn't say they've really accessed grants as much as they could have, but they certainly, an organization could,
They do fundraisers and things.
yes.
Right. Thank you. We appreciate so much your time and being with us, and very thorough presentation, so thank you very much. And of course, we're recording it, so people can look at it.
Oh, good. Excellent.
We need to move on, and Joseph, you are up with Luart.
Thank you, Valerie. The Lord update will be really quick this month. We've had a few applications, or I mean, really one application, a couple of decisions come through. The application that we have is just for a new garage next to a house that's in the Willamette River Greenway. So that's why the review is necessary. And then there was also some work being planned at the Water Services District facility, and that is in the floodplain. The property's in the floodplain, so that needed a floodplain development review. So that's kind of it as far as new stuff, and not really much in the way to comment on this time around. So yeah, if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out about any of that. But yeah, nothing really interesting to show tonight.
Quick question, Joseph, do you have any update on the status of Chick-fil-A and Courtney Avenue?
The last thing I heard was well, not from the planning department, but from somebody else, that the Chick-fil-A development will not be occurring as permitted.
That's what I heard too.
What's that?
That's what we heard too.
Okay.
At the.
Why did they pull out?
What's that?
Why did they pull out?
Do you have any idea why they pulled out, Joseph?
A drive-through is a bad investment. I'm not sure.
All right,
I mean, there's no reason why, they don't have to explain why. It's totally at their discretion when they have their permits, if they want to actually follow through on those. The approvals will expire after a few years, but they certainly have the option of, if the investment environment changes, particularly for the kind of use that they have permitted, then you might see them come back or seek an extension after a couple of years. But yeah, they don't have to give a reason why they don't want to build something.
It'd be nice if the developer would cut their grass.
Yeah. They need some goats, not chicks.
Pretty soon it can go to nuisance abatement.
There you go.
All right, do we have any committee reports or announcements tonight? Jane?
We do, from the Oak Lodge CERT group. We would like to thank the Oak Lodge Water Services District for the board of directors voting to take Oak Lodge CERT under their wing. How would you refer to it? It's, I guess as of July.
Well, the apartment, it's how I do, the apartment, is that there is some connection in that we have emergency water distribution kinds of responsibilities and so on. And that's something they helped us with in the past, and so we made a small contribution to them so they could pay for their liability insurance, and they're gonna work with us on, any efforts that would, you know, be useful to the community that we can reasonably have an association.
I believe that will happen on July first, the day after the fire district cuts us off. So it's transition smooth.
It sounded like there were some positive thoughts about FEMA funding. For CERT. I think
I
Greg.
don't know what to say about FEMA.
Greg has
Who
said-
knows?
he sent a message saying that the funding for FEMA funds for this year look positive. Like it was, in the future, they might not, but they had to apply for them for so long ago that they were already approved. So there's hope that those funds
Will come through.
Will
That's
actually
basically for some equipment for basically radio communications, so we have good communication around the old community.
Great.
Yeah.
Other announcements, committee report, Joseph's hand is up, and then.
Thanks, Valerie. So I just wanted to report that the walk bike Clackamas plan is making its way through the public hearing rounds. I think we've had a couple of presentations on this plan come through before our group in the past while it's been under development, and it's already had its planning commission hearing and its first hearing in front of the Board of County Commissioners. The second hearing or the continued hearing before the Board of County Commissioners is June 3rd at 11 a.m. But it looks like all public testimony, it looks like the record has been closed for public testimony. So unless Commissioner Savas is still in the room and has any different input on or information on that, the opportunities to comment, I guess, have passed. But it is, again, in front of the Board of County Commissioners for approval next week. So we're finally getting there.
Great, thank you.
Encourage people to email. And very minimum, email, so your emails will be well received.
Ben, did you?
Yeah, thanks. Just wanted to let folks know that we will be, we are looking for volunteers to staff the booth for the Oak Grove Community Council at the Oak Grove Festival. That's coming up on Saturday, June 28th. So if anybody would like to volunteer to hang out at the booth there and tell people about our fine group and otherwise just kind of, you know, compliment the area, we would love to have the support.
And if we don't get volunteers, we're gonna start calling.
Yes, we'll eventually be voluntold. In the midst of night.
Thanks for volunteering. I threw it in a couple hours last time and I will again, and I encourage other people too. It's really kind of fun. People that man it the whole time kind of look at you like, oh, you're leaving, but it helps, it helps. If we all did a couple.
Other committees, other announcements, if not,
Anything about the festival, so, what can I say? We have some great groups that are gonna be playing music, throughout the festival. This year, you'll see a difference in the festival layout. We're actually compressing the area that we have all of our booths in and putting booths down the center of the street in addition to on either side. And the reason we're doing that is to kind of create kind of a synergy, you know, kind of a excitement more than it is might feel when it's like an open field. Does that make sense? So same number of booths. The car show will be able to expand and be located on Oak Grove Boulevard. So it won't be off the boulevard this time. So we're thinking that by pressing that, that will help. We have 14 food carts coming. So if anybody tells me they're hungry, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help them. So other than that, I'd just say it's going to be a great event. We have the county's participating in many ways, and CPRD is one of our partners. The transportation department is having a safe streets program for children where they create an area that looks like a street skate. Kids get in little go-karts and drive them around and I won't be able to go in them, so I'm really disappointed. So there's just a lot of really good things that are happening. We just try to improve it every year. This year, you're gonna see a QR code to make a donation to the festival. We never ask anybody to pay anything to come. But we're gonna have, for the first time, an opportunity for you to donate if you wish.
Will they be like at every booth or how do you?
They will be at the entrances. We have little kiosks at every intersection, so you'll see them there. And I always want to thank all of our partners. We have about 10 sponsors. Oak Lodge Water is one of them. Very big sponsor every year. And the Friends, or at least this organization is one. And we've raised about $7,000, which pays about half of the cost of the festival. The rest of it comes from vendor fees.
All right. Is there any public comment? Oh.
Just a reminder, NCPRD is recruiting, trying to recruit for the open position for NCPRD this area, so look at people in the room here, looking for volunteers.
Public comment? All right, for the good of the order, okay. I believe that we are adjourned. And our next meeting will be June 25th. That's 3 days before the festival. And the topic will be a community conversation about governance in our area. So it should be interesting. So thank you. Sounds good. All right.
It is to you. I think the change. This is great. Great.
I'll see there's so which is here.
So it's so nice to be able to attend in person. The Denise meeting was just electronic last night and so much different.
Yeah.
I